Raise your hand if you love horses. It's a good thing because there's only two kinds of people in the whole world, horse lovers and the other kind. Hi, my name is Pat Parelli and I'm a professional horseologist and I'm a success coach for thousands of horse lovers all around the world. So you wonder, what is a horseologist? A horseologist is a human being who studies horse psychology so we can use communication, understanding, and psychology to get our horses to behave the way we want them to be, to become partners instead of mechanics, fear, and intimidation. And unfortunately, the world is full of mechanics, fear, and intimidation. So what I'd like to do today is share with you the 5 mistakes that almost every horse owner makes with their horses. So, you know, in Latin, the way they say horse is equus, and that really means equal us. So there's basically, how do we achieve equus? How do we get this to happen? Well, I promise you it ain't gonna happen if you do these 5 things. So let's go over it. Number one mistake that people make is they do not put any effort into getting their horses to connect with them and to catch them. You know, if we have a dog, we want our dog to come running to us, okay? But people have horses, they just go, yeah, they're kind of hard to catch. And okay, number 2, just saddle them up and get on. I'm telling you, this is probably mistake number 2, that if we don't find out what side of the corral the horse woke up on, we might wake up on the wrong side of the corral after we wondered what in the heck happened. Number 3, kick them to go. Number 4, pull them to stop. And number 5, use the reins to turn. And you're thinking, well, yeah, we've all been told to kick them to go, pull them to stop, and use the reins to turn. How else would we do that? So what I'd like to do is share with you some natural concepts on how to not make these 5 mistakes, okay? So this is Revelation. He's a 4-year-old stallion and quarter horse stallion. So I'm going to share a few things with you. What I want to do here is make some valid points for you so you can understand. Now, a lot of us have heard about round pen training, and I think, to be honest with you, it's probably ruined more horses than it's ever helped. Not because of the round pen, because there's a difference between technique and technician. And so what I'd like to do is make sure we get the right philosophy, the concept, the theory, and then the execution. So the philosophy is never do something to your horse, do things with your horse and for your horse so that they want to be partners. Never break or train your horse, start a relationship so it turns into a partnership, all right? And we're going to turn horseplay into horsepower. And once we have horsepower and horseplay equalizing together, then we're going to have something special, all right? So what I want to do is share some things with you. So like right here, the fact that he's, you know, connecting, he's not just trying to run off, that sort of thing is something that I really want us to value. If you take the halter off and the horse runs off, then you wonder what in the world's going on. Now, horses have got long bodies, right? As a human being, we've got tall bodies. Horses have got long bodies. So if we can use something called long body logic, which is one of my coined phrases, my body can be, if I stand here at his shoulders, my body can be longer than his, both ways, and my tail is even longer too, all right? So what I want to do is share with you the idea of how to get a horse to connect with you, all right? So first of all, we're going to use reverse psychology. Now, we've all probably heard of it. It's right, women have been using it on men for thousands of years. So let's see if we can't, instead of trying to put the halter on his head, let's see if we can't cause him to yield his hindquarters. We play a little game called Hide Your Hiney, and then he says, here, put that, whatever you got, put it on my head. So whenever I go past the withers, I want to be able to step down here, move his hindquarters around. And I want to be able to, you know, yield him around. I want to be able to play with my horse's nature. So I want to be able to have that hindquarter yield so he brings that head to me, all right? The easiest way to do it is to start online, and I'll show you that in just a few minutes. Now I'm going to ask Revelation here. His name is Smooth Revelation because he's by smooth as a cat. Go out here, okay, you ready? And giddy up, and watch how I do this. I'm going to put him into motion, and I'm going to leave him alone. This is called neutral, and probably this was one of the most valuable things that I ever got out of when I first got started with natural horsemanship or natural concepts, was a man named Troy Henry. He was really the king of Western performance out in California, and produced more riders and champions and horses than anybody at the time. And he put me in a round crowd and he said, get in there and you do less and the horse does more. So lunging is when what a lot of people do to get rid of excess energy. But what I'd rather have you do is learn how to do step number one, is to get your horse connected to you, let him have a little bit of play, and leave him alone when he's doing the right thing. Neutral is so valuable. Here if he makes a mistake and breaks gait, then I'm gonna do something. But if he'll just canter along there and just kind of watch how I play with his nature here, okay? Now I'm doing two things here at once. I'm doing the first two things. Instead of telling you what not to do, now I'm gonna tell you maybe what to do. I guess play with your horse's nature is the thing that I want you to do. Do you see how psychologically, by me doing nothing and him doing a lot, is a huge thing. Now this is a simple thing, and it's easy, it's simple, but it's not necessarily easy because most humans that play with horses are adults, and adults are human beings who practice making simple things difficult. So now here, cluck, cluck, and spank, spank, and then leave him alone. Now watch here, I'm gonna ask him to come back. So this is the important part. I call this the boomerang game. When I look down at his hindquarters here, I want him to yield those hindquarters and connect. Connection is so important, and so many people are riding horses that are disconnected. In fact, they're scattered, and what we want our horses to be is collected. We want them to be mentally collected, emotionally collected, and physically collected. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever ridden a horse who is mentally scattered? Have you ever ridden a horse who is emotionally scattered? Have you ever had a horse that physically scattered you? This is what I'm talking about. So what we want to do is we want to have this connection. We want to be able to step into our horse and have them see exactly what we want and have them want to act like partners, all right? Now, every horse has his own horseanality based on four things: innate characteristics, environmental influences, learned behavior, and spirit. Now, Revelation here, he's what we call a left brain introvert, all right? He's not the most extroverted horse in the world until he sees a cow. Then all of a sudden it all comes out. And he can act like he really wants to hold a cow, so that's a cattle act. Got it? It's a joke. Anyway, the point of it is we have to know that every horse has its own horseanality. And so we got to expect a lot, accept a little, and reward often. That's the big secret. But what I wanted you to get out of that is I wanted you to get out of that getting your horse to be able to send him out in a circle and have him come back is really important. I've been doing this for 39 years. And I remember 39 years ago, I raised my hand and I said, I volunteer to be the first president of the Coalition Against Lunging Horses. You drop a lunge rope on a horse that's been lunged and off he's gonna go. What I want you to do is understand that if we do some of these things with our horses, play some games that play with their nature to where we can get them to put their horsepower into horse play, and then we get something very positive, all right? So I'm gonna ask him here. So I'm gonna play with him here a little bit in the corral before I saddle him so I can find out what side of the corral he woke up on, all right? So let's send him that way. There we go. Had to block him a little bit. That's that long body logic. And then again, as soon as I get him into the gait that I want, then I'm gonna go back to neutral. If he makes a mistake, I'm gonna come out of neutral. And the quieter I am with my body language, that when I want it and I want to use it, things are gonna go good. All right, so we want to play games with our horse. If we don't play games with our horse, guess what's gonna happen? They're gonna play games with us. All right? And there's only two kinds of games that they can play, two kinds of things that they can play. Number one is I guess, functional and dysfunctional games. You might notice, this round pin is quite low. I call it a play pin. And these are panels made by Prefert, and they actually call them Parelli play pin panels by Prefert. And I'll never forget the look on their faces when I asked them to make these little low panels. And it's a fun little story. I was in California and I was at a Ray Hunt clinic, and I was sitting next door to right next to Tom Dorrance, and we were sitting on this hill, and on the other side of me was Ronnie Willis, my other mentor, and we were watching Ray, and there was this really good looking round corral that was 7 foot tall. It had plywood 4 feet by 8 feet, and then it had these bars up here like this. It was really good, and it was actually just like one that I had designed. And I said to Tom, hey Tom, you know, trying to be quiet, what do you think would make a really good round corral? Thinking rhetorically that he would say, oh, like that one right there, that's a good one. You can do anything in there. And he said, without changing his expression or anything, he just looked straight ahead. He said, one made out of chicken wire. And I went, chicken wire? What? Chicken wire? Why chicken wire? He says, so cowboys like you that are too weak up here and too strong out here don't put too much pressure on a horse. Wow, did that hit me like a ton of bricks. And it was the ton of bricks that I needed to have. So what I started to do is start going, you know what I've been making all my round corrals big and tall so I can put lots of pressure on my horse, instead of playing with their nature and being able to have them do the things that I want them to do. And so I started using these. There's a 10 foot long, and what's really great about them, most of my customers are female. The reason is 80% or higher of all horse owners today are female. So I'm going to ask him here to do some things. I'm going to slow him down. There we go. I'm going to slow him down again and slow him down again and play with that nature and play with that nature. Woo! Let's see if we can back him up and play here to use some of this long body logic. Can you see how we can allow a horse to play in a very positive way? But what we've got to do is we've got to have a plan. We've got to have leadership. This is why we say love, language, and leadership in equal doses. Yes, we love horses. I asked you to raise your hand if you love horses. Can you speak horse? And number 3, do you have a plan? And that's what I'm here today to share with you is the plan on how to play with your horse. So if we can get our horse to where we can start to orchestrate their body and herd them around. So what I'm doing, I'm herding him around here. I'm going to herd him down. I'm going to herd him over that way. Okay, you see what I'm doing? I'm playing with my horse, and this is all the things. He can use those muscles. They're uninhibited by the weight of a saddle or the rider or anything like that. He can learn, and I learned all this from Troy Henry. He was a master at what he could get horses to do in a round corral. But again, you have to master neutral. Then when you come out of neutral, we have to learn how and where and when to put the energy. Let's see if we can just slow it down here a little bit. Over there a little bit. Let's see if we can change of direction here. Get to where we play with that energy. Now, a lot of people, you know, have got the idea that you just, hey partner. Now, did you notice that? I didn't want him to stop, but he got connected, and since I value connection so much, never say never, don't always say always. I don't always allow him to do that. But this time I'm going to, because the connection is what's so important. So I'm going to do something here. Put my hand on his withers, and I'm going to ask him to come with me, and I'm going to ask him to stick to me. Now, it's springtime, and we're starting to have mares and having foals, and this is just what they do, is they ask their foal to walk along with them, okay? See how I'm walking here like this? And I'm using this stick here behind if I need to. If I need to stop, back up, I can use it here. See, that foal looks at his mom and goes, wow, you got a long body. And I want him to think the same thing. So I call this game Stick to Me. Ask our horse here to do different things, play around. So don't just run your horse around the round corral. Find out what side of the corral he woke up on. Now, depends if your goals are safety and fun. If you want to have excellence and learn to be a technical rider, if you want to be a competitive rider, or you want to be professional. Either way, you can play with your horse on the ground and get some really productive habits. And this is what I like horses to be, is good partners, good citizens. And they can learn all kinds of things. They can learn how to have freedom and fun, and at the same time, they can learn how to do the performance things that we're going to ask them to do. So let's see if we can go here. And ask him to go. Ask him to stop. Ask him to turn like a cutting horse. Huh? Can your horse do that? That's what I'm talking about, putting horseplay and horsepower into horseplay. Getting our horses where they can be calm, smart, brave, and athletic. And there ain't nothing worse than a horse that gets that's not calm and not brave and not smart, and he gets athletic and bucks off. So what I want to do is take all of that energy, that mental, emotional, and physical energy, and get my horse to be my partner. You liking it so far? So let's see now, step number 3. Don't just saddle up and get on. Let's go to the halter here for a second. So if I were to play with my horse and again check him out, I want to go over here and see if I can put this halter on his hindquarters, and he says, "Pat, you big dummy, you said you've been doing this for 4 decades and you still don't know what end to put the horse halter on." See how I use some reverse psychology there to get him to say, "Put the halter on my head." All right? I use little rope halters. Watch this. I'm going to step over here. See how he brought his nose over? See how I'm doing this little thing here and scratching his head a little bit when it comes on? Horsemanship, to me, is a perpetual and progressive series of habits and skills that both horses and humans need to become partners. Now, you see this thing right here? What is it? Nope, it's not a lead rope. This is a training rope. Lead ropes are usually 7 feet long. This happens to have another 5 feet to it, so that I can use some long body logic here and ask him to go out and around, give him a little bit of length and strength. There we go. I can ask him to go over this other way. I get my horse to be light, polite, and here's the secret: direct and then support. So this little tail here, now watch this. I call this the airplane propeller. You ready? I'm going to walk forward towards you, and I'm going to stop and start making an airplane propeller. See him get back off of me? You've done that to many person out on the freeway, I bet. Get off of my tail, quit tailgating me, right? Hit the brakes. Lots of fun things we can do to get our horses. We can play with that nature and get them to where we can have rapport, we can have respect, we get their impulsion, which is matching their emotional energy for whoa and go, and then to physically get them to do the things we want. All right, so if I'm going to saddle my horse, I suggest, if you really want good behavior, is don't just saddle your horse up and get on. And don't just saddle your horse up. Play with them first. Exercise them mentally, emotionally, as well as physically, all right? Now I'm going to saddle him from the other side. Why? Let me see, show you why. Because I've already got my latigos, got everything all up on this side here, and if I can do this and put this on his back, nice, like I put my hat on, not like that. Again, perpetual series and progressive series of habits and skills. Here, let me move his hindquarters so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to drop these latigos here. There we go, good. I'm going to check here to see if that is going to fit him. Yep, looks pretty good. Because I ride 10, 12 horses every day, and one of my students may have used this saddle on on a different horse, so who knows. But if we can understand that, if we can find out what side of the corral our horse woke up on before we put the saddle on, and once we put the saddle on, I'm still going to play with him just a little bit. I don't know if you can see this, but I got baby powder on that latigo there. Now, of course, this is the part where you put your foot against their shoulder and pull back. No, watch this. Here's what I might do. I might pull down first until it gets snug. All right? So it doesn't change his expression. Use my left hand to reach under there. Now, in case you didn't know it, not only am I a professional horseologist, and how I got there is because I'm a learnaholic and I'm a shareaholic, and I love to learn things. And everything I've ever learned, I love to share it, and I love to share where I learned it from. So for example, I'm going to take my latigo here, and Ronnie Willis used to tell me, push down on the withers harder than you pull up. Ray Hunt showed me how to put the latigo through there in such a way that it now comes like that, but when it's time to come off, watch, it comes off. But it never comes off if you don't want it to. So I've learned lots of things from some of the greatest horsemen in the world, but the philosophy is use communication, understanding, and psychology versus mechanics, fear, and intimidation. The philosophy is don't do anything to your horse, no matter what happens. Do things with your horse and for your horse, so he wants to become your partner. All right? Now, a couple of things that might serve you well is to teach your horse how to respond from feel. So no matter where you put some pressure, he should learn to respond to that, okay? And if I put my pressure here at the TMJ, he should be able to bring that head back up. Our horses should be able to do all sorts of things. If I go like this and I put my fingers here, see, I might take my leg and put it back here and say move. I'm taking my thumb, I'm pushing him around with my thumb. You know why? Watch this. My spur is exactly the same length as my thumb. Oh, what an idea. Oh, you can actually teach a horse how to yield to pressure, light pressure. Use your spur artistically. Like a little paintbrush. You see? This is called, I call it the porcupine game, teaching our horse how to yield to him from pressure. You know, there's some nerves on his nose here like this. If we watch his feet, these nerves come down here. These are called facial nerves. They come right down his face. They're about the size of this halter. And if I press on the left side, his left front should move. And if I press on the right side, his right front should move. And his left and his right. How long does it take for a woman to find out a man's not a good dancer? Exactly the same amount of time that it takes for a woman to find out, for a horse to find out you're not a good rider. These little things are things that can help our horses find out that we know how to communicate with them. All right? So again, you might want to teach your horse how to back up, how to come to you. And I take and maybe flick that halter at him, rope at him like that. You might want to teach your horse to follow a feel out here. Might teach your horse to yield his hindquarters by following that feel. You might want to teach your horse to follow a feel and be able to go out there like that. You might want to teach your horse to follow that feel. And pretty soon, that's how one of the ways that I get my horses to be responsive. All right, I'm getting the picture. So there's lots of things we can do with our horse before we get on, find out if everything's okay, what side of the crowd they move on. Can you yield your hindquarters? Can you move your front end? Just, you know, it's kind of like dog obedience. How many people do you know that own a dog that's not obedient? They use love, love, and love and more food, but at the same time, Cesar Millan, one of the greatest dog behaviorists in the world, said they need exercise, discipline, and affection in that order. Remember that I said that horsemanship is the perpetual and progressive series of habits and skills that both horses and humans need to become partners. So what I like to see people do is things like this. Put the reins over their head, but put it up here by the pole so that they don't there we go, so that they don't get in the way when we go to put it on. Take my halter and put it away. Alrighty, here. And I'm going to ask him to keep his head down low. If I can keep my elbow on his neck, he's in the best position to bridle. Why? Because their teeth are like this. And when you bridle and unbridle, if the head is up, the teeth get in the wrong spot, especially coming off, okay? If you want to do that, put your right hand on top. Now, you say, well, my horse is tall. Just remember, no horse is any taller than the tip of his ears when his nose is touching the ground. All right, so watch what I do here. Put my right hand here. I'm going to take my thumb and just show you here for a second. I'm going to ask him to open his mouth with my thumb. See how I did that? And I'm going to go here. Now watch this right hand. When his mouth opens, this is what pulls it in. Don't shove it in. This pulls it in. This might be clues for the clueless if you've already got this. And you know what? A lot of people are bridling horses. First thing I do when I take it off, I loosen it all the way. Just like I take my pants off, I take my buckle off, unbuckle my pants, zip it down. I don't try to get them off with it tight. And I don't try to get them on while it's tight. So same thing, I loosen it up. Watch how I do this. This is how horses love it. Push their ear forward, go like that. Don't just go boop, 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 with a tight bridle. Oh my gosh. Tom Dorrance ever saw you do that, he'd roll over in his grave. He's up in horseman's heaven right now, looking down with a smile, I bet. Here we go. Now I'm gonna snug it up to just enough. Now you hear all these things about put a wrinkle in, 2 wrinkles in. I always tell people, well, I put it in comfortably, you know, and I ask people, how do you like your underwear? Too tight, too loose, or just right? Too loose, too tight, or just right, okay? So, believe it or not, just little things like that are important. Now, I use what I call horseman's reins. Some people call them Makati reins. This has the ability to have a 12-foot rope on this side over here, and I can play with my horse on the ground just like I did over there, I did earlier. Now I've cinched my horse up a little bit twice. Now it's time to cinch him up a little more. Again, hand here, pushing down harder, then I'm pulling up, and it's easy to pull up when you've got some baby powder on there. Cross your reins, put it over your saddle horn. Now, this isn't just Western horsemanship. This just happens to be how we're doing. This would work for any horse, any type, any breed. And here at the Parelli Center, and we call it the Parelli Horse Psychology Center, we get horses of every type and every breed. And today, I will be riding 3 warm bloods and a gypsy vanner on top of a couple of quarter horses. All right, so you can see I've got that same lead rope situation I had earlier. So I can ask my horse here now one more time, kind of move around with a tight saddle. All right, make sure everything's okay. We're in good shape. Now it's time to mount. Now see if I can share with you the easiest way to mount. Now do you see how this corral is kind of sloped uphill, downhill? Well, if I was going to get on a set of snow skis, I'd put the snow skis below me, parallel to the hill, step in. Yes, wear my chaps. You always have to wear chaps if you're a cowboy and you're going to snow ski. But you step onto him, you don't step up to him. So I'm going to put him downhill, on the downhill side, okay, so that I can step on and be on. Now, a lot of people climb onto a horse. But what I like to do is I like to mount my horse, all righty? So when I climb, when I say climb on it, they go like this, they put a hand here and a hand there, and then they look over there, and right over there is a place called failure, okay? Success is right up there between your horse's ears. So what I do when I get on is I get myself in a situation where when I get my foot in, get my reins ready, and I go up, I'm going to look him here, here, I'm going to step halfway up and make sure I'm asking permission to come aboard. I'm going to look him in the eyes, step up halfway, say yes, thank you, and get on. Don't just swing on like you're in a John Wayne movie. Get your stirrups ready, get your saddle ready, and hurry up and wait by standing still, all right? So now, what about this? Kick him to go, pull him to stop, use the reins to turn. Don't kick him to go. Well, how am I going to get him to go? Well, before we go, we better make sure we can stop. I promise you, because I learned this from Red Skelton, those of you that are old enough to remember that guy, he said if you can stop the right side of the horse, the left side can't run away. So one of the things you're going to want to do is make sure you can bend your horse and move his hindquarters, all right? Make sure you can do it on both sides. So if something did go not so good, we could do that. Now, watch how I do this. Let's say I want to go. What I'm going to do, instead of kicking, I'm going to smile with all 4 cheeks. Turn that smile into a squeeze, okay? And smooch if I please, and then release. When I want to stop, I'm going to quit riding. Now, what happens if your horse doesn't go when you smile with all 4 cheeks and you open up and smile with all 4 cheeks and squeeze? What do? Don't start kicking. Do something like this. You want to take something like this, smile, squeeze, smooch, spank the air a little bit, touch yourself on the back, and touch him on the hindquarters here. The next thing you know, you're going to be cantering off like that. Everything is going to be wonderful, all right? So, believe it or not, that is so simple that even adults can do that. We're going to smile with all 4 cheeks, turn the smile into a squeeze, and then what we've got to do is learn how to ride each gait. It's not called sitting, it's called riding. There's a little bit of action, but it's still very neutral. Now, let's say I want to stop. I want to lift my toes up and relax, and if that doesn't work, I'm going to lift my reins up. If that doesn't work, I'm going to bend him. In that order. So it's like anything. You suggest, you ask, you tell, you promise. That's the whole secret. Don't just tell them what to do. Don't just make them do it. Suggest, ask, tell, promise. Make a game out of it. You ever played this game to a little girl, your niece, your granddaughter, your daughter? They're sitting on the couch and you go, the tickle game, 1, 2, 3, tickle, 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 right? I bet all the little girls that are watching right now are already going, no, I remember that. So that's what I'm doing. It's like Pavlov's dog. Ring the bell, feed them a steak. It's conditioned response. It's being very methodical. Okay, let's try it again. So let's say I'm going to smile with all 4 cheeks, turn the smile into a squeeze, smooch if I please. If that doesn't work, softly spank the air, and now it doesn't take much. All right, and let's see if we can learn how to stop going. So I'm going to take my reins from casual to concentrated, go like that, and I'm going to look here, point my toes in the air, quit riding. But I quit riding. See, I was cantering, and then I went, you see him, he dropped like an anchor. Now, let's just say it's important for you to understand that if you want to go to stop well, you've got to be able to back well. So the secret to backing is not to pull them backwards, but to lock your elbows, put your hands together and lift them a little bit. Squeeze a little bit with your spurs. Smooch if you want. Don't pull harder until you get them backing nicely. The better your horse backs up and the better he goes sideways, the better he does everything else. So how are we going to turn our horse? So we've got going and stopping without pulling. Now how about turning? I want you to try something. If you're sitting into your chair right now at home, try this. Lock your elbows against your side, okay? Put your hands fairly close together and just turn your shoulders and your belly button over there. Do you see how my hands are going? That's different than having your hands, your belly button not do anything and turning like this. Completely different. This is micromanagement and the horse has no idea where it's going. You know what drives me crazy? When I'm driving down the road and the person in front of me puts their brakes on and then turns left into a driveway, because it's supposed to be blinkers before brakes. But people that just kick them to go, pull them to stop, and use the reins to turn are doing the same thing. It drives the horse crazy. I don't know whose idea it was to put the female voice on the GPS. That's a joke. But nobody likes to be micromanaged. Nobody likes to be backseat driven. So the secret is get yourself into a concentrated riding position and is lock your elbows and turn your eyes, your shoulders, and your belly button, and your hands will follow. Okay? See how I'm doing that? Eyes, shoulders, belly button, and the hands will follow. Just keep everything lined up. So it always goes like this. Eyes, belly button, legs, okay? In that order. Then use your reins. So if I go like this, I lift up, turn my eyes and my belly button, and then come with my leg, and then bring my reins along with it. Now I'm going to be able to have my horse. So these are pretty simple ideas. For some of you, you're probably going, oh, yeah, I know all that stuff. And you probably do. And for some people are going to go, what do you call it? BFG, blinding flash, BFO, blinding flash of the obvious. Holy smoke, I never thought about standing there in neutral and allowing my horse to go around and not doing anything until he didn't do what I wanted. I never thought about preparing him on the ground. I never thought about doing things with him and for him instead of to him. Maybe you learned something here. Maybe you gained something. Maybe you're going to go, I want my horse, that's what I've always wanted, my horse to be my partner. Not, you know, they're prey animals. We're predators. They're herd animals. We're pack animals. And on top of that, we're primates. We're monkey see, monkey do learners, and we mostly see what not to do. And as a matter of fact, if you want to be really good with horses, so good that even horses think you're brilliant, watch what everybody else is doing and do the opposite. It's that simple. So hopefully this has shown you 5 things not to do. Don't just catch your horse any way you can. Don't just saddle him up and get on. Don't kick him to go. Don't pull him to stop, and don't use the reins and turns. So let's put it into a positive. Put effort into connection and getting your horse to want to be with you, come with you, and stay with you. Number 1. Number 2, do something on the ground before you stick your foot in that stirrup that assures you that everything's working. I call it a pre-flight check, and every good pilot does this with the airplane. And you got to be any of those of us that have ever flown on it, had an airplane that had dang good really sure, glad that that pilot was sure that he checked everything out before we left. Got tongue-tied there a second. Number 3, don't kick them to go. Squeeze, smile and squeeze. And it's about the release. Don't pull them to stop. If anything, quit riding, lift your toes and lift your hands. Backing is brakes. The last one is don't use your reins to turn. Don't just do this. Lock your elbows, put your hands close together, turn your eyes, your shoulders, and your belly button, push with your leg, and have your horse stay underneath you. It's that simple. So, my name is Pat Parelli. I'm a professional horseologist. I'm a success coach for you, and I'm here to help you keep it natural so that you can have a better horse life, and so can your horse. Again, my name is Pat Parelli. I'm a professional horseologist. I use communication, understanding, and psychology versus mechanics, fear, and intimidation with horses. But I'm a success coach, and that's why I've created a program so that it can give you a step-by-step and level-by-level program to follow. And I suggest you find somebody. I've had mentors in my life, I still have them. And some of them, most of them have passed on. But I take all of their wisdom with me every day and put it together. So find a program that works for you. And the other thing is that I want you to know that I'm here to help you have a better horse life by keeping it natural. The only way I know how to keep it natural is by using horse psychology. So I'm here to help. Glad you're here at this virtual clinic, and I want to thank Equine Affaire for providing this platform for us to be able to get to you. All right, keep it natural. May the horse be with you.